So let's talk about why your brain defaults to scarcity, fear, and how we can flip it to happiness and just living in joy. My name is Rochelle Walsh. I've been a complex trauma therapist for decades, and I have an online course now where I help women go from overwhelm to calm and confident. So your brain defaulting to scarcity. So I want to talk about this a little bit because we're all born to have a stress response that serves us very well, gets us out of danger, and detects threats. So this is in the primitive part of the brain. The amygdala is our threat detection center and then activates other parts of our body to turn on a stress response and get us out of danger. A fear response or anxiety is all about scarcity of resources, scarcity of things we need to keep us safe. And basically your brain says you're in danger. Very primitive. It's to help us survive. But this is really important to understand. While we were all born to have this response, and we know that babies startle easily and those kinds of things, the early life development impacts this so much. If someone is relatively safe, emotionally attuned to, that's a huge key. So safe physically from harm and trauma, and they have predictable adults who are taking care of adult things, and also they feel emotionally seen and attuned to, then what happens is by the age of 10, their brain starts to kind of prune some of this activity in the amygdala and say, you know what, we're relatively safe. The adults have things covered. I can kind of relax and imagine, play, and just kind of develop normally. But sometimes there's a lack of resources. There might be a lack of safety. Or, early on, someone might feel more responsible for things that are not age appropriate. And that causes a sense of overwhelm. That causes a sense of, how do I learn to be safe? And then they learn to do safe by being very hypervigilant. Like, I'm going to pay very close attention to what's going on in the environment. How are other people doing? What do I do to please? And what do I do to get achievement so that I can get approval? How can I be useful in this situation? How can I adapt to making the environment safer so that I can feel at ease? So if this happens, and a lot of people will say, like, I had a good childhood. My parents were there. I knew that I was loved. And that's okay. Sometimes it's also comes from, it can even be like mom was going through a real stressful time when she had me. Maybe, she was losing her parents or whatever. That stress reaction in the mom is actually passes through the placenta and causes the fetus to have a stress response. So sometimes just because of the way things were in the environment, we might have an overactivated stress response that might allow us to be very vigilant and very attuned to things that are going on in the environment, but make it very difficult to just relax and be. And so if a child learns to be more attentive to what's going on in the environment and kind of disconnected from what's going on inside, they're always going to be defaulting to that safety mechanism, that scarcity, like there's not enough and there's not enough safety, there's not enough love, approval, attention, I can't get what I need, I can't relax, I have to constantly be striving. Now, striving is a lot different than relaxing into and expanding into growth or opportunity or creativity. So again, scarcity, different than creativity. We have an overactivated sense of danger and impending doom. We are going to lean more towards scarcity because we are worried about losing. We're worried about the next hard thing that's going to happen. Scarcity does not put us in the mindset of how great this is going to be when this works out and how exciting that is. And, let me think about new possibilities. No, we're limited. So if this has been your autopilot, scarcity is in your autopilot, it's going to take a lot of intentionality to change that. Our subconscious programs that have been in place for decades, we don't wish these away. We don't go to a weekend retreat and have an insight and then it just magically fades. It's part of our autonomic nervous system, the way we process information. It's in this filter. So it's not a matter of just flipping it on through a new insight or reading a book or something of that nature. And it really is about systematically changing that underlying core of the nervous system regulation from fight or flight, which is sympathetic, to rest and digest, which is relax. So we really need to be strategic about doing that consistently so that it can become our new norm. Some helpful things to do with this would be, one is everybody has heard about things like meditation and breath work, vagus nerve activation. We've heard about those things. It's important to understand that those things have to be used in a way where you are building new pathways, not using them as a strategy just to get out of fight or flight. And if you do those things consistently, what you're going to be able to do is recognize and keep growing and learning. And I am always going to be growing and learning about my core beliefs because I want to be a growth-minded person. I don't want to stay at my same level now, 5 years from now, or 6 months from now. I want to keep growing and learning and expanding. And if you're growing and learning and expanding, you're always going to have to be aware of what is my subconscious thermostat set at, right? Is it in scarcity or is it in creativity? And so you can, once you've regulated the nervous system, you can start really observing that subconscious material and making shifts there, and then start outwardly practicing those things, doing more of those things, thinking new thoughts, engaging in things that bring joy, bring life, living into your fuller purpose. But with a scarcity mindset, everything's always going to feel scary. We're always going to feel stuck around the same point, and it's going to be around safety rather than expansion. So it's not as easy as just flipping a switch, but it is making the decision to flip the switch and then flipping that switch, but consistently doing those practices so that that becomes the new norm. And I have seen this so many times with people. The biggest barrier is that they're not sure it's safe to live outside of the scarcity, because how do I protect myself and how do I know something won't go wrong? And that protection, that self-protection. Another thing is just feeling like it's not possible because that's just how I am, because I can't remember it being any different. Sometimes if they can't remember being any different, it's a little bit challenging to have the hope that it can be. But that's where, that's where the growth mindedness comes in, is that we are not designed to just be stuck with programs that other people put into us early on that we didn't even have a choice about, right? That we just adapted to the environment. We really have to be intentional about saying, I get to decide. I get to decide what's important to me. And when I realize that there are things in my life that are out of alignment, that it's my responsibility and my privilege and my opportunity to move into a new way of doing. And that decision is what really makes all the other things possible. To know that just because you haven't had it doesn't mean you can't. It's your responsibility to fix it, whether or not you were the initial one who created it or chose it. It doesn't come with shaming. It doesn't come with guilt or shame. It comes with belief that you were created to have all and be all that you were designed for, and that scarcity is a lie. So hope that's helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you like this information and you want to continue growing and learning about your brain, your nervous system, and things related to emotional and mental well-being. Bye.